At SAE, it's always been about the future. We were there as brilliant minds mastered flight. We were also there as Henry Ford dreamed up the Model T. In fact, we've always been a part of the amazing world of mobility engineering. As with all great mobility advancements, science, technology, engineering, and math power the future of discovery and innovation. Beyond our leadership in the field, SAE offers equitable access to STEM education and programming for students. SAE's STEM education programming is building the workforce development pipeline of tomorrow, today. To invest in our young learners and our communities, we offer immersive STEM experience for all students, from preschool through college. Our A World in Motion program brings STEM to life, setting young learners on a lifelong journey of curiosity and discovery. Students grow their STEM skills such as computer programming and cybersecurity, as well as the engineering design experience. At the university level, our Collegiate Design series challenges students to solve complex, real-world problems by enabling them to design, build, and test the performance of real vehicles. Through our Emerging Technology series, student teams also have a chance to think critically to develop conceptual solutions to crucial, next-generation technology issues. Investing in our young learners propels our local and global communities. And at SAE, it's always been about the future.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Roxanne Leffler, and I have a special role today in introducing our moderator, who will bring focus on girls learning engineering and mentoring. Many students are interested in the STEM fields and not sure of the next steps to take. There's a shortage of talent in certain areas of STEM, which could easily be closed if more women would enter into these fields. Our hopes are you will have an opportunity to learn from our panelists today from their personal experiences and how SAE has helped them along the way. We encourage you to write in the chat field your questions and comments at any time during the event. We will also provide a slide at the end of the program with contact information to email your questions directly. And without further ado, please meet our moderator, Alba Colon, a decorated auto racing engineer who works to enhance capabilities that directly support at-track competition for the 13th time NASCAR Cup Series Championship, with responsibility for critical areas including simulations, data acquisition, analytics and communications technologies, and research and development, and holds the position of Director of Competition Systems at Hendricks Motorsports. Alba, thank you for moderating today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and it's an honor for me to be here today. I want to welcome everyone to our activity. I am looking forward to learning more about our panelists and also to take your questions and to learn a little bit more from each other and how did we get to where we are today. We're supposed to have 3 panelists today. One of them, unfortunately, hasn't been able to join us yet. We hope so that happens very soon. But with that, I would like to introduce you first to Hannah. And Hannah, I would like that if you can talk a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Hazelhahn, and I am a junior in mechanical engineering at the University of Toledo. I am a part of the University of Toledo Formula SAE team, and we participate in usually all 3 CDS competition challenges each year. I'm currently on a co-op at Marathon Petroleum Corporation, and I'm really excited to be here talking with all of you today.
That is also, Hannah, and we hope so that you have a great internship. So we are wishing you the best. That's great. So our next panelist, her name is Sara. And Sara, if you can talk to everyone a little bit about you, that would be great.
Awesome. Thank you, Alba. So my name is Sara Hussein. I am a senior computer science student, almost graduated. I'm graduating in August, so that's really exciting. Finally, almost done. I am the president of Warrior Racing, which is the Wayne State Formula SAE team over in Detroit. And I work as an intern in ultrasonics, the ultrasonic sensors at Magna Electronics in Auburn Hills, and hopefully very excited to maybe accept a full-time position later on as an algorithm engineer. So really excited about what the future holds.
That is awesome. Sara, and trust me, we need to be talking. These are the kind of questions that we're all looking, the ones that Hannah are doing, and you too. So that is fantastic. No, so everyone, now that you have learned a little bit about our students, we want to encourage other female students to embrace STEM. So with that, let's start the conversation. We're going to keep it very casual, talking to each other, learning more from each other. And definitely, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them, and we will make sure that we get to them very soon. So with that, let me start with Hannah on this question. Hannah, and after that, Sara, if you can answer the same question. But Hannah, what gets you excited about STEM? What do you like? What it means for you?
Yeah, I think the thing that gets me most excited about STEM is just the incredible amount of opportunity to make an impact. We as engineers and everyone in the STEM field, we are working with real world problems that impact our daily lives and the daily lives of everyone around us. And I just feel that in our field, because of the knowledge and the caliber of the skills that we exercise, we get to be really incredibly impactful, and you get to learn a lot and make so many connections and collaborate by doing that it's just an incredibly exciting career. It's always changing and there's always progress to be made. So it's exciting and challenging at the same time.
That's good. That's good. Sara?
Yep, I definitely have to agree with Hannah on that. It's engineering and STEM, the STEM fields in general, it's just so broad, and it's just so amazing. There's so much like to do and so much to learn. And again, yeah, everything is always changing within engineering itself. Obviously, like now you see like all the electric vehicles like coming out, like the F-150 came out yesterday. That was really cool. So obviously you can see like, things are just expanding, and we're going to be in a whole new world. And so yeah, and obviously like one of my things is like robotics. Obviously that's a huge field that's like so like changing all the time. So that gets me excited. But yeah, definitely.
No, that is awesome. One thing, Sara and Hannah, that it made me think, and you just said about, the new vehicle that came yesterday. Yep. I don't like to admit this, but I'm going to admit it. When I went to college, the internet was starting. The internet, imagine, at first, everything was going, reading the books. After that, internet decided to happen. I remember AOL, all of that. Later, think about it, the iPhone is not that old. It's not that old neither. So imagine how technology is changing that fast. So it's exciting to see everything that is going on in the automotive world. And like you said, that is fantastic. So with that, Sara, let me ask you something. How did you decide that you wanted to go to Wayne State? First of all, that you decided that you wanted to, study what you're studying, go to the university, and in specific Wayne State. Tell me a little bit about that. And of course, Hannah, I would like to hear about University of Toledo too after that.
So yeah, definitely. I originally had like a couple of colleges picked out where I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to this one, or like maybe this one might be a good match for me. But I decided to go with Wayne State because Wayne State, one of the big things about it is just it's huge diversity. And just like being in the downtown area, I'm a city girl. I just love being in the city and just like getting to know new things and new people and everything like that. So definitely like that was a huge striking point for me with Wayne State. And I mean, it's also like cheap too. So that's always a factor in that, but yeah.
That is important. Did you ever consider another school outside of the state?
Yes. Yeah. So I was actually born in St. Louis, Missouri. So I obviously had some intentions of like, or thoughts of like going back to St. Louis because it's obviously my hometown. So I was thinking of going to like more like Washington University, or what they call it, it's popular as WashU, or Missouri S&T. That was a really big one for me. So a couple of those colleges or universities I really had, some interest in.
Okay, that's cool. And do you like Detroit?
Oh yes, definitely. It's growing, and it's just everything is changing there, and it's just I don't know, it's expanding, it's growing more beautiful every day. So
I agree with you 100%. I love Detroit. I love Michigan. So that's awesome. It's
yeah.
great. Yeah. So Hannah, how did you decide on University of Toledo?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Toledo and I really didn't have the intention to stay close to home. I was sort of looking to gain some independence and get away. So I had applied to colleges all over the country that had engineering programs that interested me. And I discovered that when I actually went on campus and visited, that there was such a huge variety in the student experience at all of them that you really can't glean from just looking at their website or anything like that. And so I had good scholarships at the University of Cincinnati, the University of Toledo, and Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. And those became the focus for me. And after I'd taken tours, I decided that I really loved the University of Toledo. It had a great atmosphere and a lot of opportunities, including the co-op program, which was a huge pull for me. I wanted to be able to participate in that. And our university is one of only a handful in the nation that has a required co-op program. So I knew it was going to have a lot of resources to support it. And to go off of everything else financially, it also just made sense to stay there. It was a good scholarship money, it's affordable, and I knew it was going to give me a good foundation before potentially looking at the next step.
No, that is good. And let me ask you something. So how many internship or co-ops have you done?
This is my second one. I also did a third research co-op at our university in the robotics and automation design lab.
Okay, that is awesome. Okay, and let's talk a little bit very soon about that. So let me ask you something, and of course, I want Sarah to answer this a little bit later. But how do you decide your major? You know, when do you decide? When do you know? When you knew that this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so certainly my interests in the STEM field have changed a lot over time. When I was a young child, I was initially thinking the medical field. People in my family were, doctors and dentists, and I saw myself doing that. And as I grew a little bit older and joined some of our STEM activities in high school, I realized that I felt much more called to engineering and I guess creating things, so to speak. I love the creativity and the opportunity to learn about the world around me that came with engineering. But certainly, even through the end of my high school career, I didn't know exactly what type of engineering or what industry specifically I wanted to go into. And so I chose mechanical engineering because I knew it would be sort of just a platform to bounce off of. It would give me a good foundation and I could pursue just about any industry that I wanted to and have a lot of flexibility and choices upon graduation. So that was what I felt called to do.
To know, Hannah, before we go to Sarah, do you think that you chose the right career?
Honestly, I'm having an incredible experience where I'm at Marathon, but certainly I feel called to do so many things. There's still a part of me that is interested in looking for, I think, a racing co-op for my fourth co-op, because it's become a passion of mine. And I feel that it would be sort of my due diligence to pursue that at least once and try it. But it's so difficult because I've fallen in love with the atmosphere here and I can see myself doing so many things. So I guess I said when I didn't know what industry I should do in high school, that's still true today.
And don't feel bad about that. Trust me. You think about one thing and you go with another dream, and that was a nice segue. Okay, I got that message. That is awesome. That is awesome. So Sarah, how do you decide that this is what you wanted to do, and what was the process to get to that? And of course, I would like to know. And it's not about regretting or not regretting. I just wanted to know. It is what you expected or not, or what other things you would like to do?
Yeah, definitely. So just like Hannah, I did want to start off going into the medical field. I wanted to be a neonatal surgeon. So I was like prepared to do that. And then I got into high school and they had FIRST Robotics. And that's really what got me into STEM was that program. And so I was writing code for them. For the robot, and that's when I fell in love with robots and just coding in general, because it was just mind-blowing to me, like, whoa, you could write instructions for this is cool. And so that was my biggest thing. When I got into college, I still had that love for medical. So I did do pre-med and computer science. Was not the smartest choice at all. Definitely was not the smartest choice to put it in perspective. So for 2 years, it was more of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do and if I wanted, which one did I want to pick. And obviously computer science stuck with me because there's just so much within computer science that's changing and developing and just growing. And I just fell in love with it instantly. But then to answer your question about like, is it what I expected? Not at all. And not at all. It was 10 times more difficult than I thought it would have been. I just assumed like, oh, you're just learning how to do C++ and Java and Python, and, those fun languages. But then I didn't realize like computer scientist is actually analyzing data and trying to write efficient code. And efficient code, helps you save money for the company. That's a big thing that I didn't realize. That was one of the biggest things that throughout my previous co-ops, like I found out like, oh yeah, that's definitely one thing that I need to keep in consideration. So yeah, so definitely not what I expected, but definitely grew to love it because it's growing, and it just, I don't know, it made me into a really more confident person, put it that way.
No, and that is good. And let me tell you, to the two of you and to others, when you get to the industry, you're going to realize that how you're going to use your degree is going to be completely different, perhaps something that you didn't even think about it. I decided to be a mechanical engineer, seriously, because I wanted to be an astronaut. And I know that many kids say that's what they want to be, but seriously, that was the only thing I wanted to do. So that's what I decided to study mechanical engineering. Of course, later I was invited to participate on SAE, Formula SAE project, and I fell in love with cars. And I have been racing since that day. Nothing to do with the space, but you never know. And it's interesting to hear that the two of you had an interest for the medical side of the business. So that is fantastic. Sara, let me ask you something. Have you done any co-ops or internships?
Oh yes, yep. So I've done, and then we lost it. So I've done a sales co-op, and that was just to get my foot into the door into the industry. But little did I realize, like, sales isn't just like, doing like numbers or whatever. It's like a whole bigger thing. So that was that. And then so sales, BABE, algorithm. This would be my 4th co-op right now. So yeah, definitely I learned a lot from all of them, considering the very first one, I probably like killed my boss with all the questions that I had. And he was probably like, Zara, just please don't do this. Like, but it's definitely a learning experience, to say the least. Like each co-op taught me something about the industry that I didn't realize, that it was important to incorporate. So I definitely like hats off to like all my bosses for dealing with me. But again, like it just learning about everything was really, really awesome. So
that is fantastic. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. No, I said that is fantastic, and I think that is great that the two of you have had an opportunity to do some internships, co-ops, and it's a great learning experience. So Sara, let me ask a question, and from there, of course, we go to Hannah. Can you describe for our audience today? I would like that they know a little bit about what is your class load like, and do you ever feel overwhelmed? Because I want the students and the parents and teachers that are listening to us, not everything, I call it, not everything is color pink. There are days that it's very overwhelming, but if you can talk to them a little bit, about your class load and so on, that would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, in computer science, it's the class load is definitely like, you've got to be prepared to put in the work and effort. Like if you're ready to learn, like, then you'd be ready. But if you're kind of like starting to slack a bit, then that's where you kind of like start, losing on a couple of key items that you need to know. So definitely workload is a lot for computer science. And that's just because the industry is like that, where the workload is like difficult and challenging, and you need to be prepared to like, step up and, be an engineer, and, be able to put down like useful and efficient code within like a week's time frame or something like that. So definitely the workload is pretty difficult. And then, yeah, you definitely would feel a bit overwhelmed. But at the end of the day, it kind of feels rewarding because you learned a lot, and then you go to your co-op and you actually apply that stuff that you learned, and that just, you're like, oh, I know how to do this. Like, this is easy. This isn't like, that bad. So yeah, some people have it a lot easier because they like did start off like in high school / middle school, of like learning how to code or STEM or engineering, stuff like that. So, there's that advantage, but then there are other people that, don't have that advantage. So it takes them a little bit more time. So I guess it just depends on like where you are on the spectrum.
That is good. That is good. So let me tweak the question a little bit. And Hannah, we're going to get to you very quick, but just to continue with that subject. Of course, you had the school, the classes and so on. I imagine sometimes the work. I know that the two of you are very involved with CDS projects. And I imagine the personal side and family and all of that. So how do you manage to do all of that?
Oh yeah, so it definitely was difficult in the beginning because it was learning how to time manage everything. But then you kind of just have to like find that balance of like, okay, so like at this time, like, I'm going to spend with my family, but, at this time I'm going to be studying. It's a lot of time management, a lot of like trying to organize yourself and make sure you're prepared type of deal. At least like that's what I had, because I have like a whole planner of like when I have meetings, when I have like homework that's due or I need to study, or like when I have time set aside for like my family or friends or just hanging out or whatnot. So yeah, that's definitely something that I learned along the way, is to definitely like time manage everything.
No, that is okay. That's part of the deal. That is part of the deal. Okay, so let's go to Hannah. Hannah, the same question. If you can tell us a little bit about your class load, if you feel like overwhelmed, how do you manage all the stuff that you do and so on, for others to learn a little bit about, how do we make the magic happen? Because at the end, it seems that everything gets done, but how do we do that? So.
Yeah, so I think in any engineering discipline, the course load is certainly heavy. It's a lot of homework, a lot of math, and I think personally, I'm a person who learns a lot better by doing rather than, reading a book or even practicing problems. So I definitely agree with Sara that even though it felt overwhelming at times, I felt a lot more empowered once I actually went on a co-op and started doing it. It sort of gave me the confidence, when I'm overwhelmed with a test, or I feel like I'm never going to fully understand a concept, or any other frustration you feel, going on co-op gave me the confidence to say, I can do this. Not everything is going to come naturally to me, but I'm capable of solving problems. I'm capable of overcoming my challenges. And that definitely changed my perspective, I think, going back to classes after co-op. The most challenging thing is always labs. They're always the most time consuming and the most tedious. So certainly those semesters can be very demanding, and it is very easy to feel overwhelmed. I think whether you're in a STEM program or not, college is where you learn, like you said, to time manage and to balance all these different priorities. And my advice with that is always, trust yourself, trust your gut. When you learn the signs of, oh, I'm starting to burn out, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, you know, you learn to regulate those feelings over time, I think. And you sort of learn the different things you can do to recharge yourself, you know, whether that be spending a little more time with your family, whether that be, you know, just learning when to walk away from the homework sometimes and go make yourself a nice meal, or even take a bath, and do anything that just sort of resets you so you can go back into it and pursue all of your priorities with the full energy. I think that's above all the most important thing, to balance everything in your life and to manage your time.
No, absolutely. And you touched on very key points. The two of you have touched on very key points. I like what you said about you find something that, you know, that makes you, you know, perhaps center yourself, right? And I think about, you know, I have a job that I adore. It's extremely hectic. The hours can be insane, but I have been learning more and more every day that, you know, to do something completely different. It doesn't have to take that long of a time, but it can really help you to, you know, to calm down, to relax, and to all those things. So that is very key. That is very key. And for some people, it's family. For others, you know, doing exercise, doing something completely different. So that is very cool. That is very cool. So let me ask the two of you a question. It's never easy, but it's the reality. I bet there are very few females in your classes and in your projects. Trust me, that's still happening in the industry, unfortunately. And of course, it's one of the main reasons why we are doing, you know, talks like to bring more females and to bring pretty much more people to study STEM. But, you know, how do you manage, or where do you find female friends in your engineering school? You know, any tricks, or how have you learned to do that? And let's start with you, Hannah, before we go to Sarah.
Yeah, so certainly in mechanical engineering, there's only a handful of us girls. And I think sometimes we naturally gravitate towards each other because we're looking for that connection with, you know, people who really understand the challenges, and also sort of what makes it unique and actually more fun to be a girl sometimes in the field. So I think there's a great sense of community, and just making sure you attend class, find the people in your classes to connect with. I mean, maybe you just say, hey, let's go grab a coffee after class, or hey, let's study for this test together. That's probably the easiest way to do it, but certainly not being afraid to reach out to girls in other engineering disciplines too. Certain fields like bioengineering or chemical engineering have a lot more females in their programs. And so personally, I love to be on the engineering campus a lot because it's beautiful, and I love to sit outside and do homework there. But also, you know, the more time you spend there, you sort of just naturally form connections with people you see in passing. And I've met a lot of friends that way.
That is good. So let me ask something before we go to Sarah. You said that you have had several co-op experiences. So have you found the same situation, that there are not too many females on the jobs that you have been doing?
Yep, certainly. I think in the office, it's fairly balanced because there's obviously women working here in a variety of disciplines, not engineering. And then when you go out into the field and you're supervising repair projects, it's more often than not, you're probably the only female. And so I think I've been very fortunate that there have been very few instances in which anyone has even brought attention to that. I feel I've been treated very well, so I definitely consider myself one of the lucky ones. But certainly, I think that the ratio of female engineers to male engineers in the workplace is consistent with what I'm seeing at school.
Okay, but that, and again, and imagine in the racing world, okay, you can see a lot of the difference. But yes, but we learn how to manage it, you know, and it's part of the deal. So that's good. So Sarah, tell me about your experience at the school, and also on the jobs that you have had also, and where do you find the female friends?
Yes, definitely. So I am a very social butterfly, as you say. So I like to talk to people. That's like, I guess, like one of my advantages. And considering that a lot of like the stereotypical engineer is very awkward, which is true, by the way. But so how I usually find friends is I love to go into student organizations, and whether it be like a charity group, because I always love to help out, or whether it be just like anything like that. But there, like, for example, like one of the biggest like organizations that my campus has is a Society of Women Engineers. And basically it's just like different engineering disciplines, and they're mainly female. So, and we all, we all connect with, the same issues and like, and we go out together, and like we go to conventions together. So even then it's like, it's just very empowering to be in like student organizations like that. Like even in formula, being in formula, the female ratio is like, obviously like males are it's a male dominated like hobby or student organization. So, when there are females that do join the team, obviously like, mainly like we start becoming friends and then start talking about drama that happens on the team. So stuff like that. So, that's how I usually find like my friends. And then again, like I like just to talk to people. So so I just go around and I'm like, hi, how are you? I'm Sara, I like hugs. So that's my thing. But definitely in the industry that I've seen, it's definitely is the same. I would say even more so like the same ratio as it is with formula, because just because like there's not that many women in the engineering industry, and I wish there was more, because that would just be awesome. But even then, the women that are in the industry, like in the automotive industry here that I see, are very strong, independent women, and it's empowering. You see that and you're like, oh man, I really want to be like that. So it just, and that's, but I love that, like, that's the culture that it sets up for women to be like strong and powerful, and like, hey, you can't talk over me, like like look, it's fine. I can give you better ideas. So,
that is fantastic. And let me tell the two of you, I love your enthusiasm. I love your enthusiasm. So please don't ever lose that. Let me ask you one question to the two of you, and Sara, before we go to Hannah, of course. Any woman, doesn't matter in what field, but any woman that you really admire, and why?
Oh, wow. Oh my God, there's a lot. One of the main ones would be my high school teacher. So I have two high school teachers. They were my robotic coaches. And they actually started all of like first robotics within my school. Otherwise, like I like wouldn't have been introduced to STEM or engineering at all. And so like, there was a Miss Austin and like Miss Lesser, who they still like coach robotic teams, by the way. So that's like empowering in itself. So I definitely, those two women really like pushed me to do my best, and really, really made me into the person I am today. So
that is awesome. That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Hannah?
I'm actually in the exact same boat. I had a mentor in high school. She taught physics and remote sensing and a couple other courses that I'd taken, but I first got to know her through our BEST robotics program. She recently retired, and I've been involved in some conversations with my high school about how to expand the STEM program now that she ran for so many years. And I never ceased to be absolutely amazed at her dedication. I mean, she wanted women not just to participate in STEM or learn about it or get exposed to it. She wanted them to, what she called, own it, and take ownership and feel like this is something for them, and they get to be leaders and not just participants. They get to, explore all of their interests and be empowered at such a young age. And I can't even begin to say how much that affected me, and how much that empowered me, but also humbled me simultaneously, because she had an incredible way of providing feedback to you that made you see this is what I need to change, but also reminding you that you can do whatever you set your mind to. And I will always be grateful to her as a teacher, because she really was so much more than a teacher. And I think that the women who really show us that we can do it instead of just telling us that we can do it, are always going to hold an incredibly special place in our hearts and in this field.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And I am in love with your two responses. Okay, with both of you. Oh my God, that is awesome. Wow. I really admire that. I will tell you from my side, and I have two people, and I know that one perhaps may sound like cliche, but a quick story. I would say the first one, my mother. But the reason I say my mother is when you grow in a culture like the one that I grew up in Latin America, specifically in Puerto Rico. At that time, the female was considered more to use some specific roles and not the role, that I'm doing as an engineer. So culturally speaking, it was shock. But I remember my mother always telling me, and my father also, you can do and you can be whoever you decide to be, and we're going to be here to support you. So they, she is the figure of a strong woman that I always, learn, to be like her since I was a kid. So that was one. The second one that may sound like a cliche, but you need to understand, Mary Barra, the CEO of General Motors. For many years, nobody ever thought that a female will be holding a title like the one that she has, specifically in the automotive industry. And to see everything that she has done, everything that she continues doing without losing her grace or the way that she is. I have had the privilege to meet her and talk to her and so on. And everything that she continues doing, driving General Motors forward, it's just amazes me. Amazes me. And she started as an intern. I don't know if you knew that. She started as an intern at GM, and look where she is today. So believe me, I seriously believe that the two of you can do anything, okay? And we can, inspire others to do anything. So that is fantastic. So let me ask another question, and I know we're going to take questions after this one, okay, from the audience, because of course we want to make sure that the audience had the opportunity. And you touched a little bit on this, Hannah. Let's start with you. About a mentor. I wanted to know, I understand, you talk about your two teachers, but I want to know, do you have a mentor? Do you have somebody right now that you can bounce ideas about, hey, I'm thinking about this co-op, I'm thinking about these classes, I'm thinking about this is what I want to do in the future. What do you think? So let's start with you, Hannah. Do you have somebody like that, and how that person or persons have helped you?
Yeah, there's definitely a few people who serve in that role for me. The first still being Mrs. Kane, my teacher from high school. I frequently talk to her about my co-ops and my classes and the decisions I'm making, and just sort of think out loud with her for how I'm going to get to where I want to go. And I'd say that my mentors here at Marathon as well. I'm still in contact with my mentors from my first rotation, and I have another mentor now. And they have just been incredibly supportive of helping me explore my interests and empower me. And they have a lot of insight into what it looks like to come out of an engineering program as a new employee and get to know such an incredible amount of information so quickly and adjust to corporate life, which is incredibly different from the classroom atmosphere. And the last people are just my family. It's great to sort of talk to the people who have taught me my values and who supported me throughout this entire journey when I'm maybe feeling a little lost or a little confused and I'm looking to be grounded a little bit. I think just having an open conversation with them about, are the choices I'm making in my life really reflecting who I am and who I want to be also can be very empowering. And I think that's the greatest thing in the world.
Absolutely, and I agree with you 100%, 100%. So that's awesome. Sarah, tell me about your mentor or mentors, and who is that person or persons that you bounce ideas, about what, what you're doing, what to do next, and so on.
So definitely. Again, it's like my two high school teachers, Miss Austin and Miss Lester. Those two women I talk to, I would say like all the time because they're always busy, but I talk to them like once every month or a couple of weeks or something like that. And I always like like, hey, do you think I'm like doing this okay, or do I look stupid if I decided to write this for like a cover letter or something like that. So they every time I like talk to them about anything, they always like tell me like, Zara, you're doing great, like don't worry about it, like you'll do fine. Like no need to worry. So definitely those two people in my life have impacted and changed just like the way like I go about things, and always give me really good advice, basically. So it's always nice to go back to a little bit of high school and just be able to talk to them and reminisce some like cute memories and whatnot. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So talking about mentors, let's put this in the other way. Are you a mentor of someone, or do you go and talk to other students, from high school or other groups about, about the career, about how you got there? What about the other role?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that for one of the things that I like to do, because again, like coming from what you said, Alba, about like just the culture, like I came from a culture where it's like, well, women aren't supposed to like be engineers. What are you talking about? So definitely it was something where I wanted to prove people wrong, and it's something I'm a huge like advocate for, and I always like try to I guess give back to other people and say like, okay, look, like it's not like what other people say. It's actually like a lot better than what you think it is. So definitely being in like the Society of Women Engineers, I was able to create what's called Future Suite, and it's this big event that we have at Wayne State where we try to introduce high school and middle school girls and young men, and try to convince them of of the different disciplines that we have in STEM and engineering, because a lot of people don't know that there's like so many different disciplines within engineering itself. So we try to introduce that to them, and then we also try to give them our backstory and let them know like, this is what happened, this is what goes on and behind the scenes in college. Like, this is all the tons of work we do, and this is like our story of how we got here. And so we always try to, help and shine the light on that, and help the younger generation to see like, this is what a STEM is all about. It's really fun. Come join us. You won't, you won't be bored ever.
Oh no, trust me, there's no time to be bored. Absolutely, absolutely. What about you, Hannah? Do you mentor someone?
Yeah, I'd say in a couple different ways I do. The first way being I'm a big sister. My little sister is about to graduate from 8th grade, and she is beginning to grow a huge interest in astronomy and in STEM that she never really had thought about before. And she's in a similar position to what I was, which I sort of knew that's what I wanted to do, but I was missing that context. It just wasn't something I'd imagined for myself because I didn't know anyone who did it, and I didn't really know what it was. And so being able to share with her all of my experiences in college and in my extracurricular involvement is definitely an incredible special thing, because she now knows how many incredible opportunities are waiting for her. And I can only hope that I'm helping to impart some empowerment and encouragement for her as well. As I mentioned, I'm also looking to become more involved with the STEM program at my high school now that my teacher's retired, and they're looking for ways to modernize it and expand it. I'm really looking forward to hopefully forging some more connections there and getting to know some of the younger girls. Most of the people who I worked with are now also graduated and pursuing their college careers. So yeah, that's going to be a really incredible opportunity to mentor, I hope. And the other way is within Formula SAE. You know, it's certainly challenging, I think, to be a woman in the program at times. And I think that sometimes just our presence there can be a form of mentorship to other girls. And I've known several of my classmates who've joined after me, and I've been able to serve as sort of a safe place, you know, and I hope that in setting a strong precedent for my involvement that others can follow suit. And that's a really exciting opportunity to mentor as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, and you brought a great point that I wanted to bring to the two of you also about, you know, other females in the Formula SAE team, or how do you feel in the Formula SAE team? Have you ever felt at any moment that you were treated different because you were a female? I know it's not an easy subject, but it's the reality. So Hannah, we can start with you, and from there, of course, I hear Sara that is like nodding, like she has something to tell about that too. But Hannah,
yes.
tell me, Hannah, first, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, you know, it's certainly not easy to talk about because it's really hard and it can be really hurtful. I think the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, it's sad as it is, and I think it's almost been hard for me to believe at times how many people do still believe that women don't belong there necessarily. And I think when I was serving as team lead of the organization, there were certainly times when people would jokingly say that really they just wanted me to be a glorified secretary, you know, and they didn't want me to be, I guess, a leader or involved in the more technical aspects of it. And, you know, it sort of crushed me at the time because I felt so discouraged. But I think over time I grew, and there were several advocates for me in the group who thought the exact opposite of that. And they were so supportive of the positive changes that were going on and of my complete involvement in the group. So I think my advice for anyone dealing with that, because it'll happen on a formula team and it'll happen, you know, maybe in your classes and certainly when you get into the workplace, is always trust that you're capable of learning everything you need to know to be successful. You know, no one can take away from you your ability to practice new skills, to gain new knowledge, and to form connections. And all those things are going to get you through to the position you're supposed to be in someday.
That is so true. For some reason, I lost part of my screen, so it took me a little bit of a second to find the mute button. Oh, I can think that I can find it now. But Hannah, that is so true what you just said. Extremely true. So I like that response. So Sara, if you can answer that question, and from there I will have two more questions for you before we close for today. But Sara, tell me about your experience, you know, from that side.
It's been an experience. So it's just in computer science. I think statistically speaking, computer science has the lesser women in that engineering field, at least at Wayne State, and I believe like overall as well. So it's kind of difficult because when you have like professors that sit there and like they treat you really differently, especially like sometimes when you're like the only female in the classroom, and like, you know, every time you try to answer a question, it's like, you know, you respond with the right answer, it doesn't seem good enough for him, so goes ahead and like asks another guy and responds the same way. It's like brilliant. It's kind of frustrating in that sense where you still might have some professors that really like just either like speak out loud about it and say like, you know, girls shouldn't do that because that's happened, or you have like professors that are kind of like doing it behind their backs where they're like, you know, whatever type of deal. But then sometimes even in the industry, it's just, and I've seen it countless times where it's like, you know, you're talked over, like people don't like either care about your opinions. And that's why I feel like women in the industry have to be strong, have to be firm in their decisions, and have to, you know, really like put themselves out there. And that's when, you know, and then that's when like they kind of just don't really say much at that point. But like even then, like even in formula too, being as like a president of the team, it's just not, it's not easy, because there's people that are sometimes older and they sit there and they're like, what are you doing? And they don't take you seriously, or they don't listen to you. So that's when, again, like that's where like my confidence started coming out at that point. It's like, you got to be firm, you got to really like trust yourself and trust your decisions you're making, and know that it's like to better things. So even it's stuff like that. So yeah, I've seen it countless times. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but
Yeah, sadly, there are many stories. Let me tell you one quick story, and there have been some questions from the audience that all of you have been answered, but there's one more question from the audience. But let me tell you a quick story that happened to me not too long ago, that for me was like, you know what, we need to change this. I was with a group of young men, and this person came and asked the guys, hey, are you engineers? And the guys answered before me, you know, I just was there. And they started to ask them what they were doing, you know, what school do you go, what study do you do, all that kind of stuff. And when this person got to me, he said, oh, and by the way, the setting is we were at the racetrack, you know, working with the race cars. But when this person got to me, said, you must be the PR girl. You know, you got a little bit
wow.
like, the guys, and I told the guys, you never have to defend me, but the guys immediately said, no, she's our boss. She's our engineering boss. So I didn't even have opportunity to say anything, but it was sad that it's still in 2020, 2021, that we get a question and then, you know, a question like that, you know, I think that was sad. For me, it was very sad. So with that, you know, I know that we're running out of time, but there are two very key questions that I would like that we answered, you know, in short answers, please. So, and we will start with you, Sara. So first, how do you think we get young men and women interested in the field of engineering? Any ideas, thoughts, advice?
So yeah, definitely. To be interested, obviously, like it's not just like, oh, you're good at math or you good at you know, stuff in like high school like that. It's more so like, do you have like I guess like that motivation to want to be like have a challenge? Do you want a challenge in your life? Do you want to be able to create new things that's expanding over the years, and then you look back at it and you're like, I made that, like, or you look at a car and you're like, I made that part right there, I designed it. So it's more so like if you have that motivation to be challenged, and if you you have that, you know, thought process of like, oh yeah, like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, then yeah, definitely I think like that's like a good like path towards that, to on that end, to like get into STEM and engineering. And also like just in general, like if you're excited about like small things like robotics or like or even like cars, so even then getting into the automotive industry is like one of like the like a key path to getting into that to that sort of stuff. So yeah.
No, that is fantastic. And Hannah, let me get you another question. You know, You know, because I want to hear closing. You know, your thoughts also. But Hannah, another question for you: how do you continue to stay motivated when discouraged? Of course, we had talked a little bit about, you know, when we got discouraged and how we went through, but anything in particular that you do, you know, to keep going?
Yeah, it can be incredibly challenging at times. And I think the key for me is imagining what it's going to be like when I get through that particular challenge, or when I heal from that particular event, or, you know, anything that has discouraged me or made me question myself. I just try to think, okay, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, who am I going to be and what am I going to have? Because I told myself, it's going to be okay. You just need to get through this moment, whatever it takes to get yourself through it. If you have to cry, if you have to go talk to someone, if you have to just take a break, whatever it is, if you can get through this moment and you can wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm going to do better today, and I'm going to figure out how to fix this, then, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, I'm going to be so happy that I chose to overcome that obstacle. And I'm not going to lie, it's difficult at times, because in the moment you don't want to think, oh, it's going to be okay. I mean, sometimes you want to be upset, you want to be angry, because sometimes you feel so alone, like no one understands what you've gone through. So I think that taking a moment to step back and center yourself and realize what might seem like the end of the world right now, you might not even remember in a day or a month or a year. So it's difficult, but that's how I do it. I just try to zoom out on my life, so to speak, and that usually calms me down fairly quickly.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Oh my goodness. And I would love to continue this conversation. There's so much that I want to learn from the two of you. But in 1 minute, each one of you, let's start with you, Hannah. How does SAE has helped you in your career and your education?
I think the key word would be exposure. I have been exposed to so many different components of the industry, so many different types of people who I would never have interacted with before, whether that be teammates or sponsors, people at our university. And it's exposed me to subject areas and knowledge and skills that I never even imagined myself doing. And with that exposure came a lot of excitement.
Yes, I cannot say anything better than that. That is awesome. What about you, Sara?
Yeah, definitely just learning everything within about like just automotive in general. It's just learning how to work with people, because trust me, there's people that you're not going to want to work with in the future or in a group or anything, like, especially like for schoolwork, you always like have to pick up the dead weight or anything like that. That's definitely one of the things that learned along the way. But teamwork is something very important, regardless of like you don't like the person or not, you still have to get through it and work together as a team to be able to complete something. And then just as well as like learning about, again, like automotive in general, like I had no idea about like what an intake or an exhaust was in a car. I had no idea what they did. But like, even then, I'm just computer science, so that itself, like coming into the automotive industry, helped me see like a whole wide range of like how everything comes together. And so that's what SAE helped me a lot with, again, and then the exposure as well. So yep.
Absolutely. And we're going to close, but I will tell the two of you something. Personally speaking, I owe my career to SAE. And like the two of you said, SAE exposed me to a career that I never thought about it, that I never thought possible. And the two of you know what I do for a living, and I love what I do every single day. So I give thanks to SAE for that. I also want to give thanks to SAE for putting together this opportunity to talk to young girls, and also I hope so that there are some young boys in the audience too, and to show them what is STEM careers about. So thank you, SAE, for that opportunity. And the two of you, by the way, the two of you are amazing. Okay, I hope so that you really understand how amazing you are. And I told Roxanne the other day, I wish I had had an opportunity when I was in high school or intermediate school to listen to two young, talented, amazing women that, believe me, are going to take the world in their own hands and be great. So very much thank you for that. With that said, we have a couple of slides that we would like to show you about SAE. So if we can see them for a second. Oh, yes, perfect. Thank you, Roxanne, for that. We want to share with you a couple of slides, and this first one is to provide you some contact information about SAE and their collegiate programs that you heard about it for the last hour. Just to let you know, the three of us were participants and continue participating in many ways in the Formula SAE competition, and there's other competitions that are great, and I encourage all of you to learn more about it. Next one, Roxanne, please. Okay, here talks about the SAE Detroit section, the student chapters, and of course the information from A.B. Hartman with SAE International if you want to learn more about the student chapters and so on. Next one, please. Okay, this is a very, very important one. The SAE Detroit section has a scholarship program for $20,000 that is available to a graduating high school student who is interested in any STEM field and has a parent or a grandparent who is also an SAE member within the SAE Detroit section. So please, I will encourage to all of you to be looking at that information because trust me, it will come great for when you are trying to go to a school. So before we close here, I want to let you know that unfortunately we couldn't have our member Nevisa with us today. We learned during this meeting that Nevisa has been under the weather, so we wish her the best and that she gets better soon. Trust me, she has also another amazing story, but I hope that all of us have an opportunity to talk to all of you again and continue this journey and tell you about these amazing opportunities and also about these amazing young ladies. With that said, thank you to the audience. Thank you for all the amazing questions. Sara, Hannah, once again, I can't say that enough. You are fantastic. SAE Detroit section, thank you so much for all the opportunities and for allowing us to do this today and for all the great activities that you continue doing every month. You are helping not only the young generation, but you're helping the community to continue getting better. So with that said, have a good evening, everyone, and we look forward to seeing all of you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.